Today I want to talk about the first year of marriage and 4 things that James and I feel are the best things you can do for your marriage in that first year. Hey girls, Tiffany Dawn here, and if you're new to this channel, every Tuesday we have another conversation that Christian girls need to be having. So you can hit that subscribe button to join us every week for more girl talk. So the first year of marriage can be hard. Here are 4 things that I think can give you a really firm foundation from the start, can kind of set your marriage on the right track. Number 1, expectations. I did not realize how many expectations I had going into marriage, because a lot of time you don't realize that you had an expectation until it is unmet. For example, when we were first married, James wanted to have lunch with one of his coworkers who was a woman. And I had just assumed that once we got married, we wouldn't have one-on-one lunches with someone who was the opposite gender. James had never assumed that. That was one of my expectations we had never talked about, and it suddenly was like unmet. And I was like, do you not love me? Like, how could you even want to have lunch with her? And we had to talk about it and come to a conclusion, like, what does this look like in our marriage? But that's one example of an expectation I had and that he had, and they were totally different. So anytime that happens in your marriage, and it will happen in every marriage, you just got to talk about it, have some conversations, be flexible, and figure out what is a good expectation for your marriage. Tip number 2 is learn. I feel like this is your biggest job in your first year of marriage, because the more you understand your spouse, the better you can love them. And learning about the other person also meant learning about ourselves, so we could help our spouse understand us. So especially for James, he would be the first to say that he is not a very self-aware person. He had to start really learning to understand himself. So there were certain times when he'd be tempted to just kind of push things under the rug and not deal with it, not talk about it. He just was like, if I ignore it, it'll go away. And he had to start realizing that about himself, because that doesn't create a healthy marriage, and learn how to talk about it with me. On the same token, when we got married, I realized there was so much I needed to work on in myself and understand about myself that I started going to counseling, and it was the best decision I've ever made. It has been so helpful in my life and in our marriage. So tip number 3 is prioritize. I think the best thing we did in our first year of marriage was doing everything in our power to prioritize time spent together, both alone together, but also doing things together. In some seasons of life, that's going to be harder than others. If you just got married and you're both in college, that's going to be a whole lot harder than it was for us. But do whatever you can. Make it a priority to be together. When James and I got married, we decided to get rid of one of our cars and just live a 1-car lifestyle, which for most people would not work at all. But for us, like, I was a freelance writer, worked from home. James's work is actually 4 blocks from our apartment, so he could walk. So we didn't really need 2 cars. And we didn't want to get in a habit of just living 2 separate lifestyles. We wanted to really get to know each other and prioritize time together. Now, we didn't spend every moment together. That would not have been healthy for us either. James volunteered with Youth for Christ on his own. I led a girls' Bible study on my own. We both had nights with our friends. So it wasn't like our whole life was just each other. That wouldn't have been healthy for us either. But being together was a top priority, because it helps you actually learn about each other and know how to love each other better. And lastly, number 4, just know that it's okay if it's hard. The first year of marriage can be really hard. For some people, it's really easy. For some people, it's really hard. Both are normal, especially if this is your first time, like, living on your own, or if you're moving to a new place or quitting your job, or, there's so many transition factors that can be involved, and those are just stressful. And so melding your life with someone else, that right there is a huge transition, let alone anything else you bring into it. And it's okay for that to be hard. It gives you a chance to work through those tough things and grow closer together. So those 4 things made all the difference for us. But if one other thing I really struggled with was jealousy. I had a really bad relationship in the past, and I started looking at how James treated other women and thinking he was just like my ex. And my ex would flirt with other girls in restaurants. He was like a terrible boyfriend. And I started just assuming that James would rather be with someone other than me. So the first year of our marriage was really hard as I struggled through jealousy. So if that's you, check out this video here all about what jealousy looked like for us and what we did to work through it. Love you girls. Bye.